Hello and welcome to another video. So we're taking a look at a ramp DragonCraft deck. It also has a kind of Lindworm package going built into it, as I am running a single Lindworm and a reasonable amount of basic spells. I wanted to give this a go. It looked a little interesting. I made slight modifications to fit the cards that I had, just mainly putting in a couple of Irons versus Lindworm and just throwing in a couple of different Zoes and stuff like that that replaced a couple of other cards that weren't really that big. Plus, I want to try a different kind of dragon get. We've covered Aggro Dragon pretty well, we've covered some Disdain Dragon decks pretty well, and with the Disdain nerf, I really just want to try something different for Dragon, and until the meta settles down, trying different decks is kind of all I've got going at the moment, because the meta's just going to keep shifting, so nothing's going to stay super consistent right through yet. Like, we're still seeing a heap of Forest, which isn't surprising, but I still don't see Forest being that good at the moment. I've seen a lot, but I've still won probably over 50% of my Forest matches with just the most janky of decks imaginable, so it's not really surprising. But we're going to get right into this and check this deck out. And of course the first match is going to be Forest. Again, one of the most popular decks currently. On ladder, you'll probably run into majority Forest decks. Seems to be the way it goes. And then kind of a mismatch of everything else with a lack of, it seems a lack of Shadow and a lack of Portal on ladder, at least in my experience. Of course, that may differ for some players, depending on region, time, everything. But for the times that I normally play and when I'm on, it tends to be that Forest is, of course, the most dominant. But we start off pretty decently here. We've got some good ramp cards. We've got a nice setup for turn 4, going into more ramp and just really curving out nicely. The only real problem now is, can we beat out the aggression that Forest is trying to set up here? Well, Forest is trying to set up an aggressive play. Is it really going to be enough? Which, considering I can't exactly counter this yet because of the way I have to set up this turn, it's definitely looking to go that way. I think people are trying to make Forest work, and it definitely does. It's better than it was with all the changes, but I still feel like it's really easy to counter with the right setup, and once the meta does settle, if Forest is at the top, I don't know. It's just so hard, because I don't want to say something and have it completely misconstrued, but I just don't feel like Forest is going to get there. I feel like, sure, it could definitely fit in a tier 2, but to make it right to the top might be a little difficult. Just because of the cards that Forest currently has available in rotation. In Unlimited, for sure, it could dominate quite easily, but in rotation, just really feel off about Forest. So they've basically flooded their whole board out here, which is pretty nuts, and there isn't a lot I can do against it. My best bet is to really just use Amaterasu, kind of strike these down where I can, heal up even just a little bit, and buy myself just that bit of time I might need. I also should have probably played the extra Moon and Sun there. I don't know why I completely missed playing that. I actually had planned that entire turn out around playing Moon and Sun, but obviously just completely blanked on it in the moment. At least turn 8 Poseidon is pretty soul crushing against most Forest players, as it's not the easiest card to counter. At least not at this point, as Poseidon is just nuts when it comes to putting up those 1-3 wards with its own massive body. Cassiopeia is a pretty good way to deal with it though. It's going to get a pretty nice spread. Not perfect, but definitely working out well. It would be nice if we pulled a couple of our board clear, so we could really wipe the board clean and not need to worry about our opponent really playing anything from here on out. So another Poseidon, just really stalling them now. We don't really have a reason not to. And a second Cassiopeia, basically mirroring last game. And really it was pretty much an exact split for mirror, which is crazy. This time though, they do have the Insect Lord, which, I mean, is going to get a couple of damage and be able to pick this clean up pretty nicely. And a third Poseidon, so that top deck Poseidon was great. Being able to get a third one there, perfect. Couldn't ask for a better way to like completely lock down the board. Although the more turns we give them, the better chance they have at making a comeback, so definitely have to be careful on that, as it could be dangerous. As you can see, the buffs are going to be pretty crippling. Especially since I have to clear this at this point. I don't really have a choice. It's got to be done. I probably could have went for the Frenzied Drake, but I still would have been short, and I didn't really want to be too short on this. So instead, I just decided to take the couple of big drops out. Well, sorry, take one of the big drops out and then go face for 5 damage. Try and set up a potential board state that's going to be difficult to deal with. Of course, I was banking on the fact that Forest probably won't have a Storm card that could really do anything massive right now. Although these fields are actually really dangerous, considering they just played a heap of them. I actually think they could have won that match with those, couldn't they? They would have had double attack there, yeah. So they could have actually went for the 10 damage to face, but completely misplayed their moment. I actually did not notice that when I was playing, as I must have completely blinked on the moment that they played enough, but I'm sure they had at least 4 of those. If they didn't, correct me in the comments, but I'm pretty sure they had enough to go for lethal there. For sure, like, with that, would have been 2, yeah, definitely had to be enough. Which has definitely helped me out, because now I just need to beat them in the face a couple times, and they really can't keep up with that now. We've got 2 Frenzied Drake, of which we're going to be at least able to deal 1 damage to everything on board, which will be more than enough to kind of deal with this. And we actually get the extra draw as well. So more than enough to wipe this out. We actually get a chance to use Zoe as well, which is always nice, and another board clear. So we're really not in a bad situation at all now. We should be able to win this very easily, and our opponent obviously realizes that from this point in the match. And of course, next up we have DragonCraft. I haven't fought many DragonCraft decks, so it was more interesting to fight one, honestly, than normal. Starting off with a pretty much perfect curve, not really any reason to throw anything here. I actually like having the 1-3-3, especially if our opponent plays a 1-drop. It's always nice to hold into Blazing Breath. And it also works really well with Star Phoenix, even if you don't play Blazing Breath on 1. Star Phoenix being able to bounce back and forward over and over again continuously is just pretty much good value at that point. Plus, it'll work out nicely later on because you can use it to really clear off bigger drops. So they pretty much let us just curve out here. No real issues at all presented by my opponent. They're just kind of ramping and playing a few little things, which not really an issue at all for us. We get another chance to play the Dragonute. May as well throw the Blazing Breath this time, as there's no point wasting the White Frost there. May as well hold on to White Frost and use it in a more advantageous situation. Dragon's Nest, though, definitely not the card that you want to see all the time go down, but Helblindi on 6 is not going to be very good. So, a quick clear, a nice Evo, and we should be able to get 5 damage this turn, and throw Roy just for some extra. Go for the Blade, because we are in the mirror where the Blade is going to deal 6 damage to most DragonCraft followers that our opponent are probably going to play, so definitely taking advantage of that. So that healing kind of sucks a little bit. I mean, they negate our Evo, which really didn't have much choice but to do that at that point. And it looks like they're going to go for another trade with this Dragon Sword. Definitely not the play I want to see, but it's definitely what I have to accept. Then we get our own Dragon Sword, so more ramp. Yay, now our Eyes is going to actually be usable on turn 8. On turn 7, sorry. 7? 6? I don't know. I always lose track of turns because I usually use play points to track turns, so it always makes it difficult to remember exactly what turn I'm on. It does come up though, so I mean, at least that helps. Hatchling, not a card I've actually got to play around with, as it's just not one I've tested, but using it just like that seemed not so great. So we have our Izdraha. Izdrahaka gonna go face, of course. Trying to set up lethal. Griffinback Guard, looks like they're trying to stall me out a bit. Luckily for me, Force of Dragonute plus White Frost is going to wipe this out pretty easily. As we're just going to clean up the ward and go face for 6 damage to win the match. So while this deck wasn't that great overall, it was definitely fun to mess around with, and I wanted to try something a little different than what I've played for a while, so I thought why not give it a go. Plus, I had pretty much all the cards I wanted to put in this deck, and it worked out, well, moderately nicely, I guess. It was a little bit of fun, it was different to what I've played before. Some matches could be a bit frustrating, as they'd come down to literally can my opponent will win next turn, which is a little frustrating, but it does mean the game was reasonably close. So if you did enjoy this video, hit the like button and subscribe. You'll find the deck list in the description below. Until next time, see ya.